Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Quinn, and I know it's been a while, and we haven't recorded since the FA Cup final, but not a lot has really been happening in Manchester United since then. Um, I know it took a while for United to decide if they're going to keep Ten Hag or not. Eventually, they did about 3 weeks after the FA Cup final, but still no official announcement on a contract until another couple of weeks after that. Um, but this week we're seeing a wee bit more activity at United with the announcement of a shake-up of the Ten Hag's coaching staff, and obviously the wheels are in motion now for new signings and departures as well. So Brush has joined me today, um, and the first thing I'm going to ask is Ten Hag's staying. What do you make of that?
I mean, for the time being, I'll tell you what, Carl.
Yeah,
I can't remember the last time we had two back-to-back, somewhat positive podcasts, and I'm in a good mood today because for the longest time we've had no news at all, and now everything's just happening so quickly. Um, and yeah, last time we were here it was to celebrate an unlikely FA Cup win, which we had no confidence going into, and now we're here with clarity and structure and all the things we've been complaining about over the years. So happy days. As far as Ten Hag is concerned, um, I know we spoke to Tuchel before making our minds up to keep him. I like that we've learned from the mistakes of the past. It seems we haven't just given him a 2 or 3 year contract. All we've done thus far is, exercise the option of the current deal. So again, it gives them leeway and freedom to maneuver if he doesn't reach our expectations. So it's a very, very savvy move on the part of the club.
yeah. They haven't given him a 3-year contract, which would have been ludicrous, given what happened with previous managers. Um, with the likes of Mourinho and Solskjaer, I think, having to be sacked just less than a year into their new contract.
Exactly. Yeah. I think something like 6 months after it was signed, we were ready to get rid. So I'm glad we've learned from that. They've obviously done their due diligence. They've looked around the market and they don't like what they see right now. And obviously Ten Hag knows as well that his job was up for grabs and that, they were interviewing other people. So he's got every incentive now to go and give them something to think about.
Yeah, it's the same contract, same wages,
Yep.
still keeps his right to decline potential signings if he's not happy with them. Um, so, um, what else is positive is the fact that Dan Ashworth has finally arrived. Um, Barada will be arriving tomorrow,
Yep.
uh, and obviously Wilcox has been here for a while now, so all the structure really is in place. And obviously transfers have been really held up, you know, for everybody because of the Euros, really.
And the copper.
Yeah, Copa America in the US, yeah. So, but as more teams have, like, most teams have been eliminated now, so the ball is starting to roll in terms of transfers, and that's been happening at United as well. But we get on to that a wee bit later. I just want to ask you about, like, when we sat here discussing the FA Cup final, we wouldn't have believed that the next time we do a podcast, we would be discussing Ruud van Nistelrooy being the assistant manager at Manchester United. So I want to get
How
your thoughts on that.
how nice is it just to see him in that United training top? I don't know about you, but yeah, I got quite giddy about it. Listen, the fact that he's made changes to his backroom staff, I think, is a positive thing. Um, Obviously, sentiments aside, it's lovely to have Ruud, not only because of his history with the club and that, but I want people brought here on merit, and I think it's very interesting that him and Rene Hake were both managers previously, and they're willing to come and join this project. So it must have taken some convincing. So that's a positive sign for me.
Yeah, we've got three managers in the dugout now, which is an interesting situation because they're all used to being number ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So the fact that they're willing to play second fiddle and whatnot, they must be sold on the idea of whatever they've got cooking up at United. So it can only be a positive, I reckon.
and Mitchell van der Gag and Benny McCarthy have departed to make way for Rene Hack and Van Nistelrooy. So Steve McLaren has remained in place. So it's all very interesting. Um, like one of the reports in the Athletic, uh, they were reporting on the feedback from the dressing room last season, and some of the players were saying that Van der Gag and Ten Hag were like bad cop, bad cop. There's no good cop
Hmm.
there. Um, but Rene Hack and Van Nistelrooy are not exactly described as good cops either, really, based on what I've seen. So Steve McLaren is definitely going to be keeping that in the dressing room. Is
Yeah,
there?
it's going to be interesting to see how they manage it all. But I do think maybe Fergie used to switch things up in the backroom stuff all the time to keep things fresh, and they bring new ideas and whatnot. So and there was a lot that left much to be desired last season in the football that we saw. So perhaps this can help us out.
Absolutely. And the first thing that sprung to my mind was how the likes of Rasmus Højlund is going to benefit with having Van Nistelrooy as his coach.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. It's a huge boost for both of the strikers. The new one coming in as well. Obviously, the Dutch connections there as well. I'm sure he saw clips of Van Nistelrooy.
yeah, it's you couldn't ask for better. I suppose there's no role for Benny McCarthy then once you're bringing in Van Nistelrooy as assistant manager, because then obviously he's going to be a striker coach as well. He's going to double up in that role, like
Yeah.
so. So obviously McCarthy had to move on. And but I'm very, very surprised though that Ten Hag and Van der Gag have split up, because they seem to
Mhm.
come as a pair. There's many managers and number twos, you always come as a pair, and I thought them two fitted that, but it seems as if Mitchell wants to pursue a career as a number one now. And
Yeah,
so
I think that's what it is. That's what it comes down to, Carl. Sometimes, they have ambitions of their own, right, to go and be the number one guy. So I think that might be what he's pursuing now.
yeah, it seems like it. But it also seems as if things don't work out under Ten Hag, the interim coaches are already in place and ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a succession plan, you always need that. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And if things do go south, then yeah, I would not mind Van Nistelrooy taking over and showing us what he could do.
But if things do go well, and maybe even if we're successful, Ten Hag
Yeah.
is not going to be here forever. Perhaps Van Nistelrooy could eventually take over from Ten Hag.
That also absolutely makes sense to me. What it reminded me of was when Pep Guardiola left Barcelona. They were linked with all the big managers, but Barcelona quietly kept it moving and just gave the top job to his assistant, Tito Villanova, who unfortunately only stepped down because he was battling cancer at the time. RIP. So yeah, everything was in house. So if that's the kind of model we're building towards, I don't have a problem with that at all.
Yeah, and I have to say the last thing I expected this summer was a Dutch revolution, but that's what we're getting.
But here we are.
So that brings us nicely on to signings, and the first two signings look like they're going to be Dutch as well.
Yeah.
We've Joshua Zirkzee and Matthias de Ligt. Um, Now we've been here before with Matthias de Ligt, but on this occasion it seems like it's actually going to happen.
Yes.
Um, but the first one in the door seems like it's going to be Zirkzee. We've already got the here we go from Fabrizio Romano. Um, like he doesn't seem like he's particularly prolific striker. Oh, he's still only 23, but he might never be that type of striker. But he will be someone who's going to come deep and bring others into play. Maybe a bit of a Roberto Firmino type player is the sense that I'm getting. But he's very, very tall as well, 6'4". So you'd expect him to get his fair share of headers, headed goals. But he does seem very skillful, very tall, and can
Hmm.
come deep. So it's a and obviously it gives us the opportunity to take Hoyland out of the team if he's not playing well, because obviously Martial was just a disaster last season, was hardly ever available, not really a serious option. But now we're really going to have backup to Hoyland now, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Any team in the league, you have to have two strikers. Rotation is important, and we just didn't have an option at all. So last season, I felt as if we just dropped Hoyland in at the deep end. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with Zirkzee as well. I'm not expecting him to come in and be prolific. I think he got something like 12 goals and 7 assists last season at Bologna. And this was his breakout season, by the way. It's very reminiscent, actually, of the Hoyland deal last summer. The only thing is this time we're not paying way over the odds, so it's bang on budget. And when you look at the profile of the player, the age, the room for improvement, I think it's a savvy bit of business. 35.8 million when I did the conversion is what it turns out to be paid over 3 years. I think it's good value. The only thing I did find slightly concerning, uh, don't expect headers, because when I looked into his heading stats, they weren't that great. So don't be fooled into thinking he's going to header the ball because he's 6'4". Think we might be
Yeah,
setting ourselves up for failure there, like we did with Weghorst.
yeah. Veghorst was particularly good at headers either,
Yeah,
as we
yeah,
all know. Um, yeah, because I watched the clips of all his goals at Bologna, and
yeah,
none of them were headers.
yeah. That's what I mean. So I don't know. Also, we have to take into consideration the way they played as well last season under Thiago Motta, who's one of these how would you describe them? One of these hipster tacticos. They played this very, very weird maverick formation of a 2-7-2 with like marauding fullbacks and with centre backs and striker dropping down, and it was all kinds of crazy. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see how we adjust our game. Um, the rest of his play overall, I do think he'll be there to complement Hoyland. The fact that he can drop deep is good as well. My one concern is who's going to get into the ball, who's going to get the ball into the box for our strikers, because as you know, we criminally, didn't service Hoyland last season, and he had a very impressive conversion rate actually, considering how little a chance he got in front of goal.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Given the chances that Hoyland had, his conversion rate was very, very high. So what could
Yeah,
he
I
do?
believe I believe the actual conversion rate was better than Haaland's.
Yeah, I read that as well. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I
that's
think that
correct.
that's actually one of my concerns. Like, I'm very happy that we've got another striker. We absolutely need to. There's enough competitions that both of them are going to get ample game time. I would like to see how we're going to set up, and the wingers are a concern, but I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah, we absolutely have to get the centre forward into the game this season. There's no doubt about
Yes,
that.
yes, that's the thing.
So Zirkzee, 12 goals and 37 appearances last season for Bologna. That doesn't tell the full story, obviously.
Yeah,
Um, but when he was on loan at Anderlecht a couple of seasons ago, with 18 goals in 47 games. So he's 23 now. I think he's 24 next year. Yeah, born in
yeah,
2001. So he's been a bit of a slow burner as a footballer, but he does seem to be improving. And his only two appearances for the Dutch national team was as a substitute
hmm
in the Euros, and one he had no chance of having an impact because
yeah.
Ronald Koeman didn't bring him on until Ollie Watkins scored after like 93 minutes, and then he brings
Yeah,
him on.
and it's very it would be very hard to judge him on that cameo.
Yeah, and the other one was a cameo as well in the previous round. So he didn't
Yeah,
really get. He's not really had much of a national
yeah.
career to judge on. Um,
Yeah, I'll tell you what,
so
he is a player that's been knocking about for some time that, was talked about as a young up and comer. He spent some time at Bayern Munich as well. And, we know that they are in tune with young players and trying to get them in early. We've seen it succeed to fantastic success with the likes of, Musiala. We just hope that this is one of those that, they let slip through their fingers.
yeah, they obviously didn't have a great deal of patience with the player.
Hmm
He did make appearances for the Bayern first team, but it didn't obviously become a regular, and they sold him to Bologna with a sell-on clause, so they will be
Yeah.
making money from this time as well. So Bologna
Smart,
really
smart
wo-
business.
Bologna really won't be making that much cash from this transfer, given the
Yeah,
sell-on
no,
clause.
yeah. Same with their star centre back as well, Calafiori, the man at the moment. They signed him last season from Basel for about 4 million euros, and they didn't expect him to have the season that he's gone on to have, obviously. And he's got it in his contract as well. So for whatever fee over 6 million euros they sell him for, I think that they owe Basel something like 40 to 50% of the fee.
Yeah, it's not an ideal situation to be in as a club, but I suppose
Yeah.
they had to agree to that to get the player in the first place.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. So, and for a club of their size as well, I mean, they did fantastically well last season, and they'll be hoping to repeat the same thing again, I guess, in the market, where they'll look to, pick up people on the cheap and try and develop them a bit.
yeah, definitely. So uh, it gives us another option up top. You know, if there wasn't really room to substitute Hoyland with an adequate replacement or drop him for a game. And eventually we just had to play a false nine towards the end of the season, and we did
Hmm.
so to great effect in the FA Cup final. We used Holland or Hoyland as a substitute in the FA Cup final and in the final league games, and in a couple of the final league games, you got goals from the bench. But it's good to have another serious option now because Martial was not an option at all, really, in his final
Absolute.
seasons at United.
And you mentioned there towards the end of the season the switch to a false nine, and in Zirkzee we've got someone who can now come deeper as well, drop back a bit.
Yeah, he can play as a false nine.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's 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 going to be it's intriguing. He's not the finished article.
No.
So we're obviously buying potential here as well. But that's certainly not the case when it comes to Matthias de Ligt. He's an extremely experienced
Hmm.
defender for a 24-year-old. He's been captain of Ajax as a teenager. He's been at Juve. He's been at Bayern. And you're always skeptical when Bayern want to sell someone to United. But the fact that 60,000 Bayern fans signed a petition to keep him at the club uh, definitely gives me room for positivity there. I think he came more into the team under Tuchel towards the end of last season. Probably would have stayed if Tuchel stayed as manager, but Vincent Company seems willing to let him go. And given the Dutch Revolution at United, um, Telict is keen to join. He told his agent that he didn't want to negotiate with any other clubs. That he now wants to go to Manchester United. So this is a transfer we hoped to get 5 years ago, but he's coming now. Brush, what's your
Yep.
thoughts?
Yep. Yeah, exactly that. At the time when we signed Harry Maguire, this was the guy that I highlighted because at that time he was captain of Ajax and only 19. I looked like he had the world was his oyster. It's not all gone to plan. He went to Juve and it didn't really work out. But I'll be doing him a disservice to just say that he was a flop at Juve. It was simply a stylistic clash where he didn't fit in with the way they were defending with the likes of Bonucci and Chiellini, and it's a different style of football there, and that's why it didn't work out there. And then at Bayern, obviously, people might question why was he dropped, but Tuchel had his own ideas as well and brought in Eric Dyer, which I'm scratching my head at that one, but it is what it is. We have to remember that coaches do weird things. There was a time when Rafa Benitez tried to sell Xabi Alonso to sign Gareth Barry. So there you go. But yeah, what we will be getting is a very experienced player, somebody with a point to prove, somebody who now at this level is not only mature, not only experienced, but the transfer fee as well is within reason. So there's not going to be exaggerated expectations of him. So, I'm quietly confident and excited about this one. And even if he doesn't hit the ground running, we're in need of reinforcements. And at worst, he can be a rotation option. It's just that every couple of years we need to freshen up at the back. And he's the right age and profile, if you ask me.
Yeah, and it means that Ten Hag had basically had two teams during his time at Ajax. Um, Martinez was in the defense of a second team and Delict in his first team, and now he has the opportunity now to partner them together at
Hmm.
Manchester United. I don't think they ever played together. I think one might have replaced the other at Ajax, but I can see them being Ten Hag would probably want them to be his first choice. But there is a possibility of United signing another centre back this summer. Jared Branthwaite has been linked heavily, and we put two bids in for him, in fact, and they've been turned down. Everton looking way more money than United are willing to pay. Um, but the thing about Branthwaite that excites me is that he can play right centre back, left centre back, or even left back. And we know last season was horrendous with United having no left back available for about 90% of the season. And you got Branthwaite there. Branthwaite can fill in at left back if need be, if such a situation was to arise again. Um, and he's obviously got a lot of room for improvement as well. He's got a lot of potential. Looks good on the ball. Very very tall defender, physical lad, and can score goals at the other end. And people have compared him to John Stones for obvious reasons because he came through Everton's ranks as well. So, what's your thoughts on potentially signing Branthwaite then, Brush?
Uh, I absolutely wouldn't go back with a third bid. I think the money we've offered is fair. I think obviously when you're negotiating with English clubs, it comes with an English tax, and I think we're proving now that we are more competent in the market, and we're not going to be held to ransom. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that had Ed Woodward still been here, Jared Branthwaite would have been the first one through the door, and we probably would have paid 70 to 80 odd million. The fact that we went in with the first bid of 35 and then slowly upped it, I think the last one was what, 45 plus five in add-ons. For me, that's probably the ceiling for Brantthwaite. I wouldn't go too much higher than that at all. Yeah, I think he's a good prospect, but again, I'm willing to just ride that one out and see what happens. I know we've had a bid accepted for young Lenny Euro, but that one I don't know how likely it is. Obviously, we'd have to sell him on the project because his preference has always been Real Madrid.
You just stole my lines there. I was just gonna, I was just gonna bring up Lenny Yaro. Yeah, it always concerns me when a player's dream is to play for Real Madrid and then he has to make do with Manchester United because the Real Madrid transfer isn't happening for one reason or another. Um, but if we could get him, if Real Madrid are after a player, then he must be good.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. That's the thing, right? And then obviously, I kind of like Real Madrid's current model as well. So they've basically said that, we're not going to be in a race for him. We're not going to outbid anyone. Listen, we're happy to put in an offer. And if that's not accepted, fine. We're happy to take him at the end of his contract if he runs that down.
it would be interesting. So United have had a bid accepted, Madrid have
Yes.
not. Will the player then push for Madrid or will he just go to United? That's
Well, yeah, the young man's got a decision to make, hasn't he? So this is where, we have to sit him down and sell him on a project, I guess. 18 years old, he's got the world at his feet. With Delit coming in, who's 24, going on 25 next month. If Euro does come in at 18, that there's potential there, that could work.
this could be like getting Varane 10 years earlier than we did. You know,
Exactly. Yeah. And Varane's one that we missed out on when he moved to Madrid. So, yeah.
yeah, we got Varane at 28 and injury prone,
hmm
whereas Madrid got him at 18, 19. So this could be a real opportunity for us if we get this over the
Absolutely.
line.
And listen, we can't think about tomorrow and if a player's going to want to leave in a couple of years' time because things are forever changing, right? When we dropped what 75 million on Lukaku, I didn't think we were going to sell him in 2 years down the line. So things happen in football. So yeah, bring him in, see if he develops in that, and we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. And if he does fulfill his potential and still wants Real Madrid when he's 23 or 24, I'm sure they will compensate us handsomely.
Yeah, that's a great plan in my view. Um, if he's brilliant at United for 5 years
Yeah,
and moves on to Madrid, I would take that. Uh, yeah, and would represent better business than signing Branthwaite as well. It'd be much cheaper.
yeah,
And
exactly. And the thing is, like, listen, depending on what Jared wants to do, apparently because we've agreed personal terms, right? So a bit like what Madrid are doing with Euro, why can't we just wait it out and go back for Braithwaite in future? I just don't think there's a need to rush at this moment in time, especially with Delit coming in. I think we can be a bit more meticulous now in the market and organized and plan properly.
yeah, we're being very smart. We're not
Yeah.
just giving the clubs what they want. Um,
Yes.
the one of the objectives this summer is not just to sell players
hmm
and sell players and buy players for good value and get the players we need. It's also to get rid of the United tax. That
Yep.
but then some people will say it's not a United tax; it's a stupidity tax, and yeah, we have to get rid of that this summer. And looks like we're going about it the right way because even the players that we are agreeing fees for, they're very very sensible fees. They're not
Yep.
enormous,
They're not,
and
and also showing that we're making the right calls, the right inquiries. We're showing that we're interested in more than one person at a time, which is also great. So clubs will know that, if they haggle too much, then we'll just move on. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's really, really pleasing at the moment. And another player that we've been linked with is a midfielder from the Uruguayan midfielder at PSG is Manuel Ugarte,
Yep.
um, who has been playing in the Copa America, but I think they've been knocked out now by Colombia. Um, and if we could, there's, I've heard that we could potentially get him on loan for a season with an option to
Hmm.
buy. That would be great business as well. Get
That
a look at him first.
That would be brilliant. Yeah. So he's only spent a year at PSG. He came from Sporting Lisbon, where he was making a name for himself. He's not settled for whatever reason under Luis Enrique. I think they preferred Vitinha and Fabian Ruiz there, who's had a wonderful Euros as well. Fabian Ruiz, shout out to him. Um, but yeah, it doesn't by any means have a knock on Ugarte's ability. Again, when you look at the profile of player, 23 going on 24, same age as Zirkzee, I believe. We're trying to get younger players in. We're trying to refresh. And if it's a sensible feat, I'm all for it. From what I've seen of him, he's got that South American bite and hunger and violence, should I say? And that's a streak that I like in some of my players, especially in midfield. Um, and yeah, I'd like to see how that links up with Leacher. To be fair.
Did you see the scenes after the Colombia Uruguay
I
match?
did. I did. I have to say, the commentators, because the stream I was watching was American commentators, right? And they took the absolute piss. They were saying on Darwin Nunes that he's missing shots on and off the field. Uh, which was hilarious, but also in poor taste. Yeah, because I saw those images afterwards of him hugging his son, and yeah, it's horrible stuff, man. You never want to see that kind of violence at stadiums. Security has to improve. And yeah, I'm just glad that his family's okay.
Yeah, I think he was worried about his family getting caught up in the melee in the
Yeah,
stands. But yeah, there was ugly scenes.
yeah,
He
yeah.
tried
Horrible scenes.
he tried to
Horrible
throw a
scenes.
chair at the Colombian fans at one point, and
Yeah, yeah,
it was
yeah,
blocked by the security guard. If that
yeah,
chair
yeah.
had went into the crowd, he could have been looking at a lengthy ban.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even now, I think they might review footage. They might give him some kind of, fine or whatever. Uh, you know what it is? Absolute head loss is what it is. But I do sympathize in this instance. You don't expect your family to be in danger and stuff, and Red Mist took over. So yeah, whatever comes his way, he's gonna have to face it. But yeah, I'm kind of with him on this one.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously first. Um, but yeah, Ugarte looks like a good option, but it would be nice to get him on loan, get a look at him first, and then make a
Oh yeah,
decision at the end.
absolutely. And also we are haggling with the fee as well, because obviously PSG would obviously like to get the money back that they paid for him, which was 60 million euros, works out to be about 51 million pounds. I think our valuation is around 35 to 40. So I'm guessing we'll compromise and meet somewhere in the middle. But like you say, if we could get in with a 1 year option on a loan, then that's even better.
Hmm. Maybe I'm being a bit idealist with that suggestion, but
Yeah.
he seems
I
like the
mean, if
type
the
of player.
Sorry, I was just going to say, if the fee's right, I don't mind just taking a punt because they've obviously identified him as the guy. And, provided we do our due diligence, I don't mind.
He seems like the type of player where he's great at breaking up play. He's a destroyer, but he's not great on the ball. He needs to improve that
Yes,
aspect of his game.
this is something that I've heard a lot. And you know what? I don't mind because what this will allow, this is going to allow Kobe Mainu to show what he can do because we know he's very good on the ball and he's comfortable. I don't know how much of him you've seen at the Euros, but like yeah, it's clear to see that he's mature beyond his years. And if you've got somebody doing the dog work, a player like Mainu can really shine and he can push forward. So I don't need all of my players to play pet ball and be really good on the ball. I need someone to just be in there to just stick a leg in and just cause havoc. So I
Yeah,
think it's my age showing there as well because I grew up on Roy Keane.
and and Makalele. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've seen. Yeah, listen, I've seen the Gattusos, the De Rossis of this world. So I like a bit of that.
and we seen at the end of the season how Amrabat released Menu in those final games, including the cup final. And Amrabat is similar, maybe not as good as Ugarte, but he's a similar type player in that he's good at breaking up the play, but not so great on the ball.
Hmm.
So Ugarte might represent an upgrade on Amrabat, and we're still not sure if Amrabat is going to stay or not.
I feel sorry for him because he's in limbo at the moment, and it's reminiscent of what happened with De Gea last season. Because I'm pretty sure the player would like to stay, but he's got one bag packed and he doesn't know if he's coming or going at the moment. And I think we're kind of just keeping him as the backup to the backup option. If other things don't work out, maybe.
Yeah, it seems that way, but
Yeah.
it's not a great situation for him to be in.
No, it's
Uh,
not for him. So yeah. So the
he's
quicker
he's
they can sort this out, the better. Hopefully, in about a week or so, Carl, we'll know. We'll know because obviously, like you say, Uruguay have been knocked out. So yeah, the Ugarte thing,
but
we'll probably see movement next week.
but here's the thing. We fully expect Casemiro to move on. So,
Yes,
but we,
Saudi interest has been reported, but no figures or anything as of yet.
but in my opinion, we need two number sixes, and it,
Mm,
it probably would be ideal to get Ugarte and Amrabat for next season. We need to have cover in those positions. So that's what I would do if we have the cash to do that.
yeah.
And if we can get decent money for Casemiro and get his wages off the books, we might be able to do that.
Definitely. I think that's the plan. I don't know if it will be Amrabat. I do expect another one to come in though. Like the way that we've dealt with the centre back situation, right? We've not just gone out and got one. We're trying to get one in through the door, but we're working on other deals too. And I think obviously budgetary constraints means that we have to wait for the Casemiro thing to work itself out. But depending on that, don't be surprised if they go out and get somebody else as well.
Yeah, and yeah,
It's
uh,
also, Carl, it's a real shame as well about about us not being able to do business with Nice because otherwise I think Tadibo and Kefren Turam would have been within our sights.
yeah,
Kefren's just done a medical at Juve and the whole deal is about 25 million euros.
we were banned from doing business with Nice by UEFA, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's the thing. So if it wasn't for that, that would have been prime for us. It's unfortunate.
So I fully expect that Man City and Girona can't do any deals then. Yeah, I hope this is going
Uh,
to be consistent.
Well, yeah, yeah. So I know Savio's gone over to Man City, but the thing is, he was on loan at Girona, and he was actually signed to a French club in their second division. So that's how they've got around that.
Sure, players are transferring between Watford and Udinese, but then I suppose,
But they're not. It's because they're not in Europe, isn't it? That's why.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
I
it's
think I
yeah,
think
it's a silly rule if you ask me. If you allow anybody to own more than one club, then something's got to give.
yeah, players are transferring between Salzburg and Leipzig as well, and they're
Oh,
both in
so
the European
basically,
Cup.
yeah, with the Benjamin Sheshko deal, it happened before this new
Oh,
implementation.
right, okay.
Yeah, so that's how they
Right.
got away with it. And I think they were aware that this was going to be brought in, so they did that deal just before. So yeah, so from now on, I don't think we'll be seeing it, but it's a bit silly, especially in this day and age where these big conglomerates own multiple clubs. It's ridiculous to not expect them to do business with each other as long as they're not cooking the books and it's a fair price and you know I don't see the problem really. Like the only way it could be some sort of manipulation or cheating is if say Tadebo's worth like 35 million to other clubs and other clubs have bidded, but then we get him for 15 or something.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be the time where it's silly. But if we're being competitive and he genuinely chooses us, I don't see a problem.
There's absolutely no way that Manchester City are cooking the books, Brush. You can't believe you're making that accusation.
Oh, they couldn't possibly, could they? Oh.
No, I think the Premier League will be extremely harsh with these 115 charges.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't believe it for 1 second. That's what their supporters would tell you anyway. So we're getting the wheels in motion now in terms of the transfer window. We've got our coaches in place for next season. One
Yep.
very, very exciting coaching addition, of course, the man who scored 150 goals in 219 games in Manchester United. The only issue with Van Nistelrooy, I wish he had stayed longer than he did,
Yeah.
and he was so unfortunate in that anyone who spent anyone else who spent 5 years under Alex Ferguson would have expected to win more than one Premier League title, one FA Cup, and one League Cup. But he
Definitely.
just,
He was just very unfortunate in his timing at United because obviously we went through the transition as well, unfortunately, during his time. Like when we sold Beckham and, there was the Jemba Jemba and Kleberson, David Bellion era. So, yeah, he was unfortunate. He was unfortunate.
yeah, he just happened to be there during a period of transition. Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, most players that would have been at United
Hmm.
from between '93 and 2013, if they were there for 5 years, they would have
Yeah.
won a lot more than that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he didn't get the trophies that his goals deserved. Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting
Absolutely. That's the best way to sum it up. Yeah.
it. Could he be backup striker, player coach?
I'll tell you what. I was on a stream yesterday, and they were talking about one of the what somebody in the comments had mentioned. They expect like a return of like 20 to 30 goals from Zirkzee, and I was like, I don't know if he's that prolific. There's probably more chance of Ruud donning the shirt again and getting those kind of numbers. He's probably our best bet.
Yeah, if we're behind in a game and 10 minutes to go, just chuck him on, put
Hmm.
him in the penalty area and get the balls into him.
So
He's
in terms of the yeah for the young strikers, I think he's going to be fantastic. My only concern would be obviously they're not him, right? So as much as he can
yeah,
teach, they are their own individual players, and there'll be some things that might come naturally to him that won't for them. So we have to keep that in mind as well. Because I know Thierry Henry was famously, coaching Lukaku for Belgium, and when you're just that elite level of striker, when you're trying to explain stuff, I'm sure it seems simple to you, but it doesn't translate well.
you're ruining it now.
You know me, I always have to keep it somewhat realistic before we get too giddy.
Yeah, there will be things that he can teach them that they don't already know, but he won't be able to mold them into him as a player.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. But he'll see things in their game that he can, help improve
Yeah, absolutely. And
because his understanding was unreal as well. Because do you remember how good he was at knowing the offside rule? Like he used to manipulate that to at his
yeah,
will.
yeah, even
Like
just
because he would he would drift offside and then just know when to
yeah,
get back on, and it was crazy.
even just little things like that that he can teach those strikers that they
Yep.
might not know.
Mentality wise as well, famously, people remember Martin Keown jumping on him and all of that nonsense. And in that real toxic era of rivalry, all the things he picked up along the way, that is something as well that he can
Yeah,
bestow upon them.
Arsenal fans don't like him very much, which is great because
Yeah, yeah.
they, they still feel that he got Vieira sent off in one of
Mm.
those games.
And
They're
listen,
like,
Patrick Vieira needed no assistance in getting himself sent off, as the record show. I'm not hearing it.
yeah, I totally agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
um,
Fantastic player, but yeah, that was one of the things that really let him down. That he couldn't control his temper, and I know they'll say that about Roy as well, but his was something else.
yeah, yeah. He still holds the record, doesn't he, for most red cards
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
Premier League
yeah,
era?
yeah, yeah. It's crazy. He picked
Vieira
up
that
more
is, isn't
yellow
it?
card. He picked up more yellow cards than Roy as well. He was on the overlap a couple of weeks ago, and I was listening to the episode, and this was one of the questions that they asked him. The pair of them, they wanted them to guess who had more yellow cards, and it was Patrick, even though he spent considerably less time in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think people forget just how volatile he really was. 'Cause they
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
Keane was the madman, but Vieira was
Hmm.
more composed. couldn't be further from the truth.
No, no.
Um, so, um, Ten Hag absolutely has to finish in the Champions League spots this season, doesn't he?
Uh, I don't know about that. I mean, ideally,
Well,
yes.
well, if he doesn't, I don't think he'll be kept on for another year.
Well, yeah. I mean, if he falls short of expectations, I'm sure the club will, yeah, look to move him on. I don't have any issues with that, provided they have a proper plan in mind. But realistically, for next season, I don't know if I can just confidently say, right, I want top three or top four, because this past season I absolutely didn't think we were going to slump to eighth, but there are about five teams fighting it out for that fourth spot with 8 points separating them all. So it's kind of ridiculous. And for the past 2 years, I think we've been set up as a cup team. So my ambitions for this season going forward, I would love us to target and try and win the Europa League. In the league, I don't know. I just want better performances. Uh, Hope preferably a positive goal difference. I'm a simple man. I'm a simple man. I'm going to start off with wanting some simple things, just better performances on the pitch, a midfield that doesn't get absolutely ran through, shots raining down on Onana need to stop. So these are the things I'm going to look out for. In terms of the Champions League, I know how competitive it is, so we'll have to just see how the season pans out.
Yeah, you just cannot see a United manager finishing outside of the Champions League spots 2 seasons in a row and still being there the
Hmm.
season after. I think he's under pressure now to like he's getting a lot his way. It seems surprisingly he's getting there's Dutch coaches and then more Dutch signings, and this team is probably going to look a lot more like the team that he would have wanted at the beginning. So this season, you're definitely going to be able to say it's his team. So
Most definitely, but at the same time, we've got structure as well, right? So now I don't think we're just bringing people in because they're Dutch or whatever. I think they have a clear plan in mind, and it just so happens that one or two of the people that they've highlighted are Dutch. But yeah, this kind of thing happens. It's a similar sort of thing. I've seen this before at Barcelona. In the early 2000s under Van Gaal, they had about 7 or 8 players that were Dutch at that time.
yeah, it does seem like even though there's a new structure in place and you'd expect
Mhm.
them to be identifying players and signing players and not the coach, there does seem to be an element of compromise there. That's just the way I'm reading it.
Yeah, there does. I would expect that though, to be honest. I don't know how comfortable I would feel with any one side having full control over that, you know? So I think there always has to be some kind of compromise and leeway. Um, but even with the first refusal thing, if now that we've got proper structure, if he's presented with three options, surely they will be just as happy with any of the other two. So I don't see it as too much of a problem.
Yeah, it's certainly very interesting and it is exciting. And I'm looking forward to pre-season, which
Hmm.
begins actually the day after the Euros. So, Bruce, I'm sure you're looking forward to the
Rosenberg, I
Euro.
think.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I am looking forward to the Euros as well. Some way, somehow, second final in a row. Hopefully, we can get over the line this time. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
it's going to be a tall order against the Spanish, who've been the team of the tournament so
Yeah,
far.
yeah, surprisingly so as well. And they've got a young 16-year-old who's just set the world alight. Absolute madness. When people have told asked me about Harry Amas over the last couple of months, I've been like, you know what? Leave the kid alone. Let him do his GCSEs. And then you turn the telly on and see what young Yamal's doing at the Euros, and you're like, oh, well, okay then.
Yeah, maybe we should throw Harry into the team at left
Well,
back.
I'm thinking, well, it just goes to show, doesn't it? Like with the proper planning, and if you're good enough, then you're old enough, I guess. So yeah, just have to manage that one.
Yeah, absolutely. In that left back area, definitely need. We can't just be
Oh,
relying on them. We,
absolutely. I know these lot. It looks like they're starting with the spine, centre back, midfield, striker. But then, yeah, left back is imperative for me. We absolutely need to look at that.
yeah,
Um, and then
yeah. Well,
perhaps a winger as well, depending on the departures of Sancho and Greenwood, who looks like he's set for Marseille.
yeah, yeah. Greenwood. Yeah, it looks like. We're going to get 30 million euros up front with add-ons and then a 50% sell-on clause as well. That's really
Yep.
good business by United.
Yeah, yeah. Good business that. Good business
Um,
that.
but
If we can get that over the line.
we can't be relying on Shaw next season at left back because he's going to get injured. That's
Yeah. And
definitely going to
Malacia,
be.
I mean, nobody knows what's actually happened to Malacia over the last year.
I'm actually of the view now. I'm not even sure he's ever going to play football ever again because
Yeah.
no one's been out for this long with any injury.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's a bit of a mental. I can envisage a situation in which you even try and loan him out, but again, you need backup, right? You need another one. Um,
so we either if we get Brownthwaite, he could provide cover. But if not, we're going to need to sign a specialist
mm.
left back, or we're
So
really going to have to show faith in Harry Amos.
yeah, yeah. I think it might be a bit too early just to chuck the kid in at the deep end, but yeah, there'll be some sort of compromise there. Um, I know Donny's moved to Girona, and apparently, according to Romano, when that deal was happening, United made inquiries about their left back Miguel Gutierrez, who is known to have a £29.5 million release clause.
Yes, but it may be difficult given Jonas City connections. But and we also been linked with the Turkey left back who plays for Fenerbahce as
Yes,
well.
yes. We've been linked with him as well, and he's quite a versatile player. When I was looking at what positions he played in, he's played a considerable number of games in attacking midfield as well, which I thought was quite random.
Yeah, he had a really good tournament, but also he was highly rated even before the tournament. So
Yeah, yeah,
we wouldn't just be signing him based on his performances in the tournament, which I
yeah,
believe.
yeah. That's important. The other thing to remember is obviously we'll be negotiating with Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, but I believe he's interested in a couple of United players, Lindelof included.
Mm, so
So
that could be interesting. All right, maybe there's a deal to be done there.
yeah, we do a lot of business with Fenerbahce. We
Hmm.
have done over the years, so maybe time to do that again, and maybe actually get a good player from them for a change, rather than selling
Yeah,
or just our cast-offs to Fenerbahce.
yeah.
Um, it's been a great show as always, Bruce. Great having you on. Great to be back.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've not noticed time fly past. See how quickly time goes when we actually have things happening at our club, positive things.
Yeah, long may it continue. I'll be back, and Bruce will be back over the course of pre-season, and of course the beginning of the season in August as we begin this journey on the Dutch Revolution. So, everyone, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and get some comments in down below. And I will reply to as many of those as possible. And I shall see you all again soon.
Take care.